Deep 3 here, back at it again with another Deep 3 reviews. Today we're going to be doing a tier list for Pokemon Unite. If you don't know me, I play up in Master Tier right now, so this is going to be from that perspective, but I also have a couple Smurfs roaming around down in the lower ranks. But this is just going to be a list for solo queue specifically. If you guys play pre-made of 3, 2, or 5, this list is not going to be a reflection of how good your team compositions could be. It is just going to be purely off of individual power level of each character right now at this point. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go with the neutered boys, and I'm going to put them down here. D is going to be bad, honestly. C is going to be average. B is going to be above useful. And A is going to be very, very good. And S is going to basically be God tier. So that's how we're going to define that. Let's get it out of the way. Snorlax, S stands for Snorlax. He's God tier. Block, very strong. Yawn can be just as good if you're good at landing skill shots. But overall, this character's lane phase and dominance throughout all parts of the game is a little bit too strong right now, personally. He is clearly the best tank in the game, and no one can stop his fatness. He just bullies and bullies and bullies. Last hits minions like nothing. Zones people off of objectives, pushes them off of Zapdos. Can last hit with Heavy Slam. There's no real reason to use Flail. But other than that, he's just so well-rounded overall through the course of a game. Imagine playing lane phase and not even needing to eat a single fruit, because you can just use rest during lane phase. It's that strong, and that's why he's up in God tier. Next people up on the list, I want to put maybe my main character that I play the most that got a buff, Venusaur. I'm going to throw him down into C tier. He got buffs. They didn't help him. He's honestly the same character he was before, even with the cooldown reduction, even with the Sludge Bomb buff. He still has the same weaknesses. No escape, no mobility. People can pick him off left and right whenever they want, as long as they just make the effort to chase after him. His strengths are his long range, but people are getting a lot smarter as to not letting you KS the objectives, because the game is centered around objectives. So that's why I gotta put him down in C tier. It's nice that he got buffs, but he needs a little bit more. Maybe he can get a buff on Petal Dance or a little bit more of a buff on Giga Drain, then he can play up in the front lines more. But as of right now, nothing's changed for him. Nothing really moved the needle. Next person, we're gonna go with Cinderace here. He got some nerfs also. I think he's still a great character. I still think he's playable. I don't think he's OP anymore like he was before, because he was easily able to 1v2 people. He's more in line with being at maybe 1.5 characters. He can 1v 1.5 people now. Not as busted, not as crazy, but if you can outplay people well enough in team fights, he can still be useful. So I'm going to put him over in B tier. Now, following the trend, I want to get these ranged attackers out of the way. The better version of Cinderace is going to be Greninja. Honestly, if you play Cinderace or Greninja, you'd always pick Greninja right now over Cinderace. It makes no sense otherwise, unless you want to use Blaze Kick, but that just got nerfed. So this boy is actually going to go up into A tier. Greninja's got a lot of good things going for him. Very high damage. He's got very good sustain, and the ultimate is a solid stun overall. He has an escape, not as good as Blaziken, but his base damage and his shuriken damage is very, very strong right now, which allows him to do that 1v2 type of thing. A little bit more fair, higher skill ceiling needed to play it, but overall, just a very strong character. Now, if there's an attacker that I think that is stronger than Greninja, I would put it as Cramorant. Now, why would I put Cramorant up in A tier here, you may ask? I think his ultimate is very, very powerful. He's able to actually 1v5 people, and it doesn't really matter who's peeling for him, honestly. If you see this circle, you're running away from it every single game. That's what I see every single game. If he ults, you run out of the circle, and there's nothing else you can do about it. He has a strong lane phase with his Whirlpool. He even has Dive. He has a knockback, like short dash. A lot of variety in his abilities, and he also has that Whirlpool ability. That's huge damage during the lane phase if you stand in it for more than a second. He might even be stronger in group play from what I've seen, but this is a solo queue list, and otherwise he would probably be in S tier. Another S tier character for solo queue. I want to throw Lucario up in S tier. Now, originally I had him in A, but the way I see the meta shape up right now, I think he is invaluable when it comes to last hitting objectives. He can steal the Dreadnoughts in the early game. He can make sure to secure your Zapdos and your Rotoms in the mid and late game as well. It's a very strong power-up punch ability that can last all through early game into the mid game. And it's very, very dangerous, honestly. And even in the late game, whereas he has to play a little bit safer, he can still last hit those objectives and deny other people. It does as much damage as any other ultimate or unite move, and that's very, very dangerous. Still deletes squishies in the late game. Maybe not as useful against all of the bruisers and all-rounders as the game progresses, but his early game is so powerful, and the game snowballs really hard off of Dreadnought right now. So, gotta put Lucario up in S tier, especially for solo queue. The next person up I would put is, let's do Charizard. Charizard is a character that plays a little bit interestingly. He got a lot of buffs in the last patch, but his lane phase is very weak. When you're a little Charmander, Charmeleon, you get bullied quite hard in lane against all these other people, such as Ninetales or Bulbasaur or Eldegoss, even Crusoe or Snorlax, because they just hard bully you off your damage. He has a little bit of an awkward range at the beginning. He doesn't really get strong until Charizard. And even then, he can only bully squishier people than himself. So, that being said, I'm going to have to still put him in C. He's definitely better than Venusaur. But at the same time, there are better characters out there right now that can bully with that level 3 evolution threshold. If I had the character listed here right now, Gardevoir, I'm just going to let you guys know it's going to be an A tier. Again, doing the comparison between Gardevoir and Charizard, I know they're two very different characters, but if you're going to have a character scale up and require levels to become strong, Gardevoir is the gold standard because her damage is actually insane once she hits Gardevoir. As a Ralts, as a Kirlia, you're pretty dang useless. And that's the same with Charmander, Charmeleon. Pretty useless. You have those ranged abilities, but they're a little bit clunky, and they're not really overly powerful either. Whereas Gardevoir, her attack damage is wild. She's very squishy though, so that would be the knock on her, but the ultimate is so effective in team fights. Anyone can coordinate with a circle that big, and that'll be especially true for a solo queue game or a competitive 5 rank. So that's why I'm going to throw Gardevoir up in A tier. You won't see it, but know that it's there. The next character I would like to grade is probably going to be this Crusoe guy. I'm going to toss him over in B tier. Very well rounded. He can play offensive, he can play tanky. Why is he in B though? He's a very good character, honestly. But in solo queue, people cannot coordinate properly, so it lowers his power and his production. You can't really use the walls because people won't be able to follow up on it or know that you're using it. But in 5s, this character is deadly. Like, he runs faster. He would move up to A or S tier for sure, just because of his speed and damage output. But he needs the backup when you're playing with him and the map coordination to make this character work. And that's why he's going to be sitting at B. Next person up, we'll do Eldegoss. We'll go left to right for the rest. This person's going to go in A. Previously, they would have been in S tier, but they neutered the ult a little bit. But this is still a must-play character if you want to climb solo queue. If you have an Eldegoss on your team already has a huge advantage over any other team that does not have it. The shield's massive, the healing's massive, and her damage output is honestly pretty damn strong for a support character. So that's why A tier, Eldegoss. Alolan Ninetales. Now, this is a very safe character. It's a very interesting character as well because it's reliant on zoning people, but it's better in some matchups than others. Overall, the ultimate is very good, so I'm going to probably throw this character up in A tier, actually. The damage is very strong. The zoning ability is very strong, and I've seen many instances where an Alolan Ninetales can multi-stun you in place and set you up for your teammates, and it's very easy to do so. So A tier is where Ninetales is going to go. Next one up, Machamp. Now, again, 3 evolution thing. Compare it to Charizard, compare it to Gardevoir. Now, I believe Machamp isn't better than Gardevoir, but I believe it's better than Charizard, most definitely. So I'm going to throw it over in B tier. I think his ability to grab people is very useful. I think his damage is very high even after the nerfs. And I like that he has the grab ability that can pretty much cheat eject and pull them back into you. Very strong overall, and I think B is a good spot for it. Next person up, Mr. Mime. I think he's very strong. I think he has a very high ceiling. A little bit clunky to play in solo queue, so that's going to make it lose some points. I love that it shreds special defense. It's very strong. And with the right composition, it can be a very deadly character. Again, this is going to be one of those characters that's better for competitive play rather than solo queue, just because of how it works and coordinates with other people. But overall, Mr. Mime is very, very strong. His damage is very strong as well during the lane phase, so I'm going to toss him over in B tier for now. He could be a lot higher. We'll see. Maybe people will master the character, but I know it's strong. We'll just throw it out there. I know it's strong. So we'll put him in the front of B tier. Next person up, Pikachu. I think Pikachu's a solid character overall. He's better than my main Venusaur, which makes me a little bit sad. He isn't the most powerful character overall. He does fall off. His lane phase is amazing with the Electro Webnet. I think he is the gold standard for character development. Just the baseline, very easy to use, very easy to understand. And it's going to sit in B tier, honestly. Lane phase is better than Charizard. Probably better than Venusaur as well. His late game is probably not there, honestly, for Pikachu. So it's going to be sitting in a B tier. Absol is a very interesting one. Absol is a very high mechanic, high skill cap character. Now, if you were to play it at maximum potential, I would put him in S tier. But that being said, if people can't play him at his maximum potential, and we're talking about the average Joe and Master or any other rank, I would have to put him in A tier. A or B. Damage output is actually insane. You can see this character crit for 2,000 damage, sometimes just off an auto attack. Night Slash is a very good gap close. Jungling overall in the early game is very strong. His clear time is very good. He would either be at the front of B tier or at the end of A tier, and that's where I would see him at right now. And I think he has the potential to snowball games in solo queue anyways. Like, people are uncoordinated, you can take advantage of that chaos, pick people off, and that's what makes these type of characters strong, like Lucario. We got another 3-tier evolution character, Garchomp. Again, this has the same issue as Charizard at the moment, where you have to get through Gible and Gabite before you become a huge threat. Granted, I think Garchomp has a better ultimate than Charizard if used correctly. Lane phase is a little bit easier to go through too, because the auto attacks from Gible and Gabite are much better than Charmander and Charmeleon's. So maybe at the bottom of B tier, maybe at the top of C tier. The ultimate's very strong. I think its late game is where it shines the most for Garchomp. I don't think it's a weak character by far, but I don't think that he's a must-play by any means. So let's throw him over in B. Gengar. This is going to be an interesting one. It got nerfed a lot, and people were abusing it because the damage numbers were so high. Since then, people haven't been playing it as much because it wasn't a free win. It wasn't a free triple kill all the time. So, falling from S tier, I don't think he's quite at the top of A tier. I believe the character is still very strong, but the skill cap required to make it work effectively, I think we'll put him at around top of B or A tier right now. He still needs to survive through Ghastly and Haunter. I don't know if he's better than a Mr. Mime right now, but he's still very strong. I see him in the games. I don't feel like he completely dominates a game, but he's always a threat, and you can never leave him alone. And so that's how you know it's a strong character. So we're going to put him over on the top of B tier, right next to Mr. Mime. And I think that's a fair spot to put him at. Talonflame. This is a very interesting character as well. Right at the beginning of the patch, when he got that huge buff across the board, he was played all the time, and people didn't understand his abilities and how to counter him. A week and a half later now, people are used to the character, and he's back to being a whatever one, honestly. He has the same issues as before. He's squishy, does high amounts of damage because he got the buff, but he's also not mobile, really. He has fly, but then you're doing nothing in the sky for a few seconds. He has a dashing ultimate, but in solo queue, how is your team supposed to coordinate with that and follow up when you're pushing somebody a mile across the screen? Same issues as before, honestly. It's a lot stronger than before, but he's not better than Mr. Mime. He's not better than Gengar, Cinderace. I don't even think he's better than Pikachu or Garchomp. I would put him at the top of C, maybe. Just below Charizard. He still has the same problems. He might be a little bit better now. He can get more kills, but I don't think he's insane. Next one up, we got the Bro. I love the slow Bro. I think he's great overall. I think he is a very well-balanced character. I think he is not as good as Snorlax, but, you know, he's definitely a character you could look to consider picking in a team comp. So let's throw him over in B tier. I would like to put him next to Crusoe. Maybe slightly above Crusoe because he's easier to coordinate with random people on a team. You can surf, you can telekinesis, you can hold one person down with your ultimate. Very simple for people to follow up on that. Scald and Amnesia, probably not the most played builds, but, you know, I think overall he's right down the middle and balanced right now. He's strong, but he's not overly tuned at the same time. Now, next character we have is Zeraora. Now, the best comparison in characters to this guy is probably Lucario and Absol. And he's still very strong after all of those nerfs. Do I think he's better than Lucario now? No, I don't think so. I think he's very mobile. I think he's a fun character, a very dynamic character to play. But the skill cap has definitely increased on him because the damage was nerfed. He's not as broken now. Slightly better than Gengar still in terms of, you know, what type of places he's in the game. But he's not better than Absol. So again, this character is probably sitting around B tier. I could make a case for him to put him at the bottom of A tier, but he would have to be behind Absol right now currently. They're pretty comparable. Honestly, Zeraora and Absol are pretty comparable in power level. They're just strong at different points of the game. And right now, I think Absol is just a nidge better than Zeraora. So I think that's a good spot to put him at. And now for our last character on the list. We have Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is very strong now. It got a health buff, a defense buff, and a special defense buff. What that did right now in games is that he never misses Sing. He honestly does not miss Sing. Double Slap was fine already as is. Ultimate was fine as is. Sing is what makes this character game-changing, almost like Snorlax block. That being said, I think it is a very good character for competitive play. And if you want to win games, you'd be playing one of the S tier characters, but if you didn't get access to one of those, you're going to want this character up in A tier. Very powerful CC ability. I would put him above Ninetales even, actually. Would I put him above Greninja? No. Eldegoss, I would be comparable to Eldegoss. They'd be about even. But this is my tier list. Let me know if I got it right, if I got it wrong. Do you disagree or agree? Let me know down in the comment section below. Maybe I'm a big dum-dum. You let me know. Like the video. It helps me out. And we'll make more tier lists like this as patches come out. Also, hit that subscribe button. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.